Last year was kind of wild.
Yeah, 2022 was a strange year for gaming, and also just like I guess the world in general.
Just for us. We got Glidus on.
Yeah, we
We
did.
met Glidus.
Yeah, we.
Hi. Welcome to our yearly practice of irrelevance. I'm Callum. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined by Emilio.
Hey everybody, it's Emilio. Pronouns he him.
And this is Byte Marx, a show by gamers for gamers about politics. And this is our yearly top 3 video. And I'm going to be honest, last year was kind of wild.
Yeah, 2022 was a strange year for gaming, and also just like I guess the world in general.
Just for us. We got Glidus on.
Yeah, we
We
did.
met Glidus.
Yeah, we finally met Glimbo. That was a
I've been rewatching his videos lately, and I just like every time I hear his voice, I'm like, I've met you.
okay. Well, we didn't like meet him in a clandestine location to do podcast. We did.
Not like, yeah, but like I've had a conversation with this person. That's wild to me. And Dragon Show is good again.
Dragon Show is good again. I'm so glad Dragon Show is good again.
Yeah, man. And that's not even like talking about what's been happening in gaming. But I did want to bring up something. Is that Game of Thrones took a year off, right?
Yeah.
That means that Game of Thrones and Assassin's Creed both as series took a year off and came back worse.
Yeah, okay, that's true. I feel like, when someone goes on vacation, usually they're supposed to come back, be recharged. But Assassin's Creed, their vacation was just like, I don't know, doing lots and lots of alcohol. And
to do the, if we're doing the vacation analogy, it's like Game of Thrones and Assassin's Creed came back from their cruise and then started showing you slideshows.
Yeah. Not,
And with that beautiful segue, let's talk about our favorite games.
Yeah, so viewers at home, how it'll work is previously we had many, many more games on this list, but it turns out Callum and I don't really play that many games. So if you're
unfortunately also we don't have an opportunity to play a lot of new games. If you're a watcher of our streams, you'll know that my computer was upgraded recently, but I mean very recently. So generally we have to resort to playing older games. So these aren't the top games of 2022. These are the top 3 games that we played in 2022.
Yes. So if you are a budding indie developer, or maybe you work at EA and you want to just send us a copy of a game, I mean, we'll review it, right, Callum? Maybe it'll be the best game, maybe it won't.
Totally. I heard that the guys who made Tales of Iron are making a tabletop RPG.
Ooh.
Because D&D is like burning its OGL to the ground. So if they do that and you want to send us a copy, we'll play it.
Yeah, we'll play it. Maybe we'll even maybe we'll rope some of our other friends into playing it as well. And yeah, we've talked to the Tales of Iron developers. They're pretty cool. Tales of Iron was one of our favorite games, wasn't it, when it came out? So The first game on my list...
Yeah, it actually made it on this list.
Yeah, I think it made it on both of our lists, for me and for you. But you played it super late.
Yep.
So, in terms of our top games, I'm going to start. I think I'm going to start with a game that was actually released in 2023. 2022. You can tell I'm
an impressive playtime if it was released this year.
Yeah,
25 days ago.
I played it in November, and I basically played in a theme that I think will become commonplace for all of my best games. I basically played it in 1 or 2 sittings, and I finished the whole game. And I think that's part of the reason why this game is on my list. It is Shadows over Loathing. So, Callum, do you know about West of Loathing?
Is that a place?
It's a game, well, the Loathing series. Have you heard of it?
Emilio, I practically invented loathing. No, I've never heard of the Loathing series.
So, cast your mind back to many, many years ago when, like...
We start every one of these like this.
When Newgrounds was a thing and people were making Flash games, right? So, a bunch of guys put together a game called Kingdom of Loathing. And it was essentially an attempt to make a comedy fantasy RPG. And I know what you're thinking, Callum. That is a great idea.
No, I was thinking that's a terrible idea. I've played so many of those and they're always awful.
Well, this one ended up being surprisingly good. A couple of things set them out. The Loathing games are always drawn in a stick figure style, with black and white graphics, generally speaking. So they have a very simplistic art style, which I quite find endearing. They released a game called West of Loathing a couple of years ago, and West of Loathing was essentially Shadows of Loathing, but in a cowboy theme. So you were in the Wild West. And these games are very silly. Like, for example, the currency of the game is meat, for reasons...
Wait, like...
Yeah, meat.
Meat's like what you eat?
Yeah, as in, like, the icon for the currency is like a steak.
Oh.
Yeah. So...
Is it like, how Metro uses bullets as currency, and it becomes like do you want more bullets, or do you want to buy things with the bullets?
Nope, it's just meat. It's just called meat. There are a couple of interesting things about this world. There are like really wacky supernatural forces at play. I really like these RPGs because I think they do a good job of actually letting you do role-playing. There are lots of opportunities for like clever puzzles and things like that. So Shadows of Loathing was one of my favorite games, I think in part because of the setting. If you know anything about me, you know that I'm absolutely a fan of like H.P. Lovecraft's work and of the sort of like Cthulhu universe in general. And correct me if I'm mistaken, but aren't you as well, Callum?
I like cosmic horror conceptually because I think that space is inherently terrifying and it's interesting to explore something boundless and infinite and incomprehensible. But I will admit I've never actually read any of the Lovecraft stories, so I wouldn't be able to say I'm a fan.
Yeah, I really enjoy cosmic horror as well, but also just in general, Lovecraft stories. My favorite story of his is actually paid homage in this game, which is The Color Out of Space.
Oh, wait, the one where it's like, it's a color that no one has ever been able to see, and they all get driven crazy, and it's at the bottom of a well?
Yes, that one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I've heard that one wasn't very good, but you and I have had contentious opinions about the things that we like all day.
Yeah. Well, we had a fight just before this about one of the games on my list, but...
Don't tell the kids that we're fighting.
No, it's fine. So yeah, Shadows of Loathing takes place in like a 1920s kind of Lovecraft environment. Your player character is invited by your uncle to come to a city because mysterious things are going on. Ooh. And
oh no, a color we've never seen before.
Yeah, and that's...
I sure hope this doesn't make me murder people.
Well, in a black and white world, seeing a color probably would kind of drive you a little bit crazy, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to do it, I guess.
Yeah, so this game is an RPG. You have 3 classes. Pig Skinner, Cheese Wizard, and Jazz Agent.
Oh, I see what kind of game this is now.
Yes, it's that kind of game. And basically you go around various different locations inspired by many famous Cthulhu stories, and also just in general, like some other horror stories. For example, there's a place called Crystal Dream Lake, which...
Oh, God. Do you happen to go there on Friday the 13th?
No, I don't think so. But you definitely have some spooky adventures there, some of which involving time travel. I don't want to spoil a lot about this game because I highly recommend that you actually play it. If you're interested in, I think, games that are actually funny, because I actually did laugh at a couple of points. The jokes here are actually pretty good. It's not too long as well. I beat it in about 20 hours, which is, 16 hours to be precise, which is not a lot of time.
But that's kind of a good thing for comedy games, because the problem with games is how long they are, and it's a hard energy to keep up.
Exactly. I think the best thing about this game is that it doesn't necessarily linger too much on any one thing. Like, you'll have a joke and it'll be funny, and then it'll move on. You won't like keep like over dragging the jokes out. The combat is admittedly nothing to write home about. It is a standard, very JRPG menu-based combat. I will say this though, there is quite a variety of enemies, and the game does have a lot of opportunities for like avoiding fights if you have the right skills, which is something that I absolutely love in RPGs, right? I shouldn't have to fight every every random Yahoo and fish person just because I can bump into them. I should be able to use my other skills to be able to talk to them.
Yeah, it's like how in Earthbound, I think if you were high enough level, you just instantly won fights.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to you don't have to like beat up a level 1 like sewer rat when you're like.
Although that is kind of the joy in like Metroidvania games, is when you get fully upgraded and you go back to the starting area to look for secrets, and like you just demolish the early enemies.
Oh yeah, but I would argue that the part of the reason why that is because the game has a much more mechanical input from you. This is just you clicking an item on a menu. It really is just like number go big. The last thing that I will say about Shadows of Loathing, and another reason why I highly recommend it, is just I think there are very interesting puzzles in this game. Right? I think there are very interesting, like, thoughtful puzzles that you actually can solve in multiple different ways and have multiple different outcomes. And I think that is always something that we should praise, just because people are trying to, like, be a little bit clever with their writing. And I do genuinely think that some of the writing in this some of the writing in this game is actually really, really good. So.
Okay, but like when you say puzzle, do you mean like Zelda-esque reflecting beams of light with mirrors kind of puzzle, or is it like a word puzzle, or are we talking Myst?
So most of the puzzle, well, primarily things are resolved via text, right? But it has like a point-and-click adventure type puzzle where you're in an environment, you have to solve an issue, find an item, or like do a skill check, or perform the right set of operations on an item or something like that in order to progress the story. And there was one puzzle involving alternate dimensions and time travel. That was like, when I finally solved it, I was like, wow, okay, that was actually really clever. Because you can also interact with the environment and stuff like that. So there's also a mix, right? There are some puzzles which are purely logic based. There's like a mini Pokemon League.
No, excuse me?
Yeah, there's like a mini, it's okay, without spoiling too much, it's like there's a mini college student league where you're like picking teams of college students like their Pokemon, and they only have they can only say, it's like a food-based fighting ring as well, so they can only like do their food-based attacks. So a guy with like a giant loaf of bread can only do bread-based attacks. And you've got to like fight other teams and battle in the league, and that's just see.
Oh man, it really goes to show how much Pokemon has permeated like the community of the world. I don't know why I said it like that. How it's just permeated media, because fucking World of Warcraft had a Pokemon thing in it as well.
Really? What was that?
You get a literal cage. Like a literal trap, and you trap animals and tiny creatures, and you make them fight each other. It's just Pokemon, but like with critters in World of Warcraft.
So like a worse version of Pokemon then?
Yeah, and you can like, I guess, pre-order it to get chibi versions of actual characters.
No, that's terrible.
You can get Winston from Overwatch, and it's like, it's dumb fun for in minigame form, and that can be the kind of spice a game like World of Warcraft needs to just keep going for a little bit.
But isn't Winston like
Pokemon,
sentient?
Winston is a sentient creature, yes, with thoughts and feelings and emotions and drives and relationships with other people and the ability to talk. But this is baby Winston, who is just a cute little marketable gorilla.
Animal fighting is okay if they're children, kids. Moral of the story.
Yeah. As long as you can sell it well, You can do anything you want, apparently. Speaking of doing anything you want, do you want to hear about my third game?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
It is... Okay.
Oh no.
How do you feel about Bejeweled?
Oh, okay. So many years ago, I played a game called Puzzle Quest, Challenge of the Warlords or something like that. And that game was basically if Bejeweled was a fantasy RPG. And I'm ashamed to admit it, but I sunk a lot of time playing Puzzle Quest. So, yeah, I would say I'm pretty into Bejeweled.
Okay, now imagine if Puzzle Quest was about cooking.
Okay.
And also anime. And also chef like warrior knights.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's a beat 'em up.
This is just Puzzle Quest, but without the beat 'em up.
Yeah, it's that in essence is Battle Chef Brigade Deluxe Edition.
Oh my god,
that is the one I played.
That is such a cool name. Battle Chef Brigade, I love that. Okay, sell me on this.
The premise of Battle Chef Brigade, which is kind of a lot to say, so I'm just gonna call it Triple B. Or BCB, yeah. BCB starts with a little story about how, for a while, people were fighting monsters and it sucked. Monsters kept eating all the food and we were going hungry, and then suddenly, the head knight and the head chef of this kingdom killed some monsters and then cooked them. And it turned out really good. So now there's a whole contingent of the royal military.
Wait, is this based on an anime?
I don't know.
Because I swear this sounds like an anime.
Like it, right? You might be thinking of like Shogeki no Soma or Attack on Titan or several animes with similar plots, but
oh my god,
I don't think so.
Okay.
Anyway, the battle chefs are this new contingent of basically like chef knights that fight monsters and then cook them.
Please,
and you're trying to join it.
Callum, please tell me Gordon Ramsay is in this game. Please tell me there's like a camera. No! What a missed opportunity. Okay.
What a win. What a win for humanity. Gordon Ramsay is an awful, awful human being. There's a monetized rage.
Okay.
Anyway.
Not a good guy, but definitely a fun meme. Anyway, carry on.
So, I forget the main character's name. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't finish this game, and I played it very long ago. Quite early last year, but it's been on my mind for a while. The main character is this girl who runs away from her family to join this tournament, which, if you win it, you get a spot in the Battle Chef Brigade.
Okay. So you have to kill monsters and cook them.
Basically, how it works is that you enter into a cook-off, where you get 3 judges, 1 to 3 judges. The judges will tell you what key ingredient they're looking for in this meal, and what of the 3 colored orbs should be most predominant on the little grid when you cook.
Okay.
Now, to get the ingredients, you have to go out into the wilds next to you and sort of Monster Hunter style kill a thing, pick up its bits, and take it back.
Is this like a 3D? Is it like actually Monster Hunter? Or is it like a 3D?
No, it's 2D.
2D. Okay, cool. Right.
It's 2D and it's a beat 'em up kind of style. You unlock moves and abilities that you use to kill the monsters more efficiently, and that's how you get all of the ingredients. Now, when you go back to cook, you put the ingredients into the pot or whatever, and that deposits them onto a grid, and each ingredient turns into a set number of these colored orbs. Sometimes there's 6 red ones and 6 blue ones. Sometimes there's 3 of each. Whatever. The challenge of the game is to fit all of the colored orbs into the grid so that you can still manipulate them and move them around, to get them to combine together into the bigger versions of themselves, and to make sure that the ones that the judge wants are the most predominantly available. They don't necessarily... You get more points for having the combined versions of the orbs or whatever, but it matters more, I think, to just have a majority of them.
Okay, yeah, so there is a strategic element here. It's not purely just trying to spam a color or something like that.
Yeah, here's the thing. This game isn't difficult. to understand or do. But it's interesting.
It's interesting
because it has this weird mix of beat 'em up, cooking, and visual novel that I haven't really seen before, and I was definitely intrigued.
Interesting. So it's like basically it's one of those games where it has multiple different like gameplay loops, but they all like work together and mesh well, right?
Kind of. It's inoffensive. You know, it doesn't. It's not that they necessarily work well to create like a compelling experience or whatever. It's more that they just don't work poorly. And I was deeply expecting them to, because this looked like a mobile game.
Ah, okay. The graphics, are they like cartoony?
It's
or
hand-drawn, anime-ish style, and it looks good.
That does sound pretty cool. I mean, if you're into the anime type of thing.
Look, I'm not here to try and sell you on this game. You could very easily look past it. I'm just saying that I think it deserved a place in my third a slot in my list because, frankly, I've thought more about this game than most other games I played.
Yeah, I was about to ask. So, what is it exactly that made you put this game on your list?
I think it's the fact that I bought it as a joke for myself. It was super cheap. I bought it because I thought it was going to be awful and I could just like joke about it to some people. And then I ended up kind of getting into it while I was playing. I thought it was interesting. And then every other game just ended up being exactly what I expected it to be. And this one didn't. And it was nice to see games can still surprise me. I've been playing games for a long time. I've seen a lot of patterns. I kind of know how this industry works now. It's nice to see games that are out there that are still doing things differently. And I think that's what the third place game should be. It should be something that kind of took me by surprise. It wasn't necessarily the best experience, but it was definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like, for me, that's also true for my third place game as well. Because I feel like the Shadows of a Loathing, I didn't play it expecting it to be that funny and that interesting, but it ended up being that way. So yeah, in a weird way, we kind of like synced up there.
Yeah, it's everyone always like looks at these lists for the first place one as almost a recommendation for what you should play next. And I get why. Games are so expensive these days, you can't afford to make mistakes. But I've always been interested in seeing the middle place, you know? Like, what is a bigger insult, really? Is it being third or second? Because third implies lesser quality, but also it's interesting to see how it made it on the list in the first place. Second is just the most middling.
Yeah.
It's just like not good enough to be first and not bad enough to be third. But at third, it always feels like it tried something and failed rather than, you know, just being okay.
Yeah, I feel like not enough games try something unusual, you know? Like, we really have to... Like, a lot of the gaming is basically very samey nowadays, and I feel like it's very important for us to look at games that are like, here is this weird idea. It might not even be a good idea, right? But at least, you know, they're trying something. I have a lot of respect for people who have a creative vision, and they pursue that vision even if it seems like it's a bad idea.
Yeah, speaking of bad ideas, why don't you tell the audience your second favorite game?
We're gonna have to fight on this one.
Yeah, we're going to fight on this because
okay,
it's awful.
Okay, so again, viewers at home, you probably the games on this list are not necessarily like they're not the best games of 2022, and you know, generally speaking, I don't know if these are games that everyone will like, but
why are you lampshading?
These are games that I really like. And my second game of 2022 was Halo Wars Definitive Edition. It would have been Halo.
You are a corporate chill, and I just what do Bungie's boots taste like?
What? Okay, so this is very contentious. Callum is a Halo hater. for some reason.
I'm not a Halo hater. I think the series is fine. It's just like Halo Wars is such an odd choice. Because it's not a good Halo game, and it's not a good RTS.
Okay, so there are a couple of things, right? Long-time viewers will know that I'm always a fan of spin-off games. I think my favorite version of Dishonored is the weird DLC that you get for Dishonored 1, right? Because I think it it is unusual. I really like spin-off games. I never expected to like Halo Wars as much as I did. But I did. I really, really enjoyed it. I played the campaign basically nonstop for a while, and I'm not really into multiplayer, so I can't really comment there. But for me, I feel like, because I read a lot of the Halo books as well, I'm really invested into Halo lore, and when it comes down to it, I feel like Halo Wars captures the essence of what I imagine a lot of the combat in Halo should be like. If Halo Wars 2 was on Steam, it would probably my top games would probably be Halo Wars 1 and then Halo Wars 2. I really like it.
You are hemorrhaging respect from me.
What?
Right?
I think that
just first of all, there was a day in high school where a friend of mine tried to explain Halo lore to me. Because he found out that I played Halo 3 and I kind of enjoyed it. And he tried to explain to me the story of Halo. And I think I blacked out for that entire experience. Because I can't remember a thing.
Yeah.
He just started and then it was an hour later and he was done. And I was like, wow, I had an out-of-body experience to get away from that story.
I've always been a fan of Halo. I don't know what it was. I've even played Halo 0, which, is a game that I don't think many people even know about. So Halo for me has always appealed. I've always been a fan of science fiction stories, military science fiction in particular. And I think Halo gets the balance between a very hard science fiction world and a very goofy science fiction world. Bungie, let's not forget, Bungie were the guys who came up with Marathon. And Marathon is nothing if not completely, out of...
what the hell is Marathon?
Yeah, see, I think that does a good job of highlighting the differences between you and I as gamers, right? Marathon was essentially Bungie's attempt at making an FPS game many, many years before they actually made Halo. It's a wacky game. There are, rogue AIs and advanced alien species and all kinds of other crazy stuff. All with the graphics of Doom, because Marathon is an old game. And Bungie tried, I think, for many years to make Marathon a bigger success. I think, unfortunately, it suffered from the fact that I think Half-Life 1 was released. I might be misremembering, but I think Half-Life 1 was released at the same time, and everyone basically loved that. And I think they tried again with Halo, and I think they did it. Now, Halo Wars, of course, lots of people will argue that Halo Wars suffers from a number of, simplifications. I'm always a fan...
It's like it being bad.
I'm a fan of strategy games that try to do something different, and I've always been very interested in the idea of console RTS games. I think... Middle-earth, the Battle for Middle-earth, that was originally inspired essentially as a console RTS game, and I thought that was really good. I thought that was really interesting as far as games go. I think Halo Wars delivers on... it's a very simplistic RTS experience, right? I'm not going to argue that this is the deepest RTS that's ever been made. However, when I play this game, I feel really happy, right? It makes me really... it just makes me really happy. It gives me the feeling of all the Halo books that I've read, all of the... for a very brief time, I tried even to get into the Halo tabletop game. That's how much of a fan of the series I am, right? And playing this game, I feel like I can get that kind of experience, on the tabletop that I get, when I'm playing the game. And yeah, I think the campaign is fun. The characters are, of course, nothing too outstanding. Although I do think Spartan Red Team are definitely standouts. Hopefully, we get to see more of Red Team in future Halo installments.
Wait, Red Team... What?
Oh yeah, so the storyline of Halo Wars follows the very early, again, it's set in outside of the main canon of the video games. It follows the very...
God forbid that we leave the main canon of the video games.
Yeah, but it actually, I think the story is actually, I think, very interesting in terms of, if you're a Halo fan, I think you'll like it, because it follows the early days of the Human Covenant War, when mankind is basically completely getting their butt kicked, by the Covenant, and every fight is a desperate fight for survival. Especially in the later Halo games, it feels like you're just here to watch the Master Chief kick everybody's ass. And a lot of the levels, especially some of the middle levels, feel like, oh yeah, I could lose this at any time, and you have to be really, very careful if you want to actually succeed. But yeah, I think Halo Wars definitely achieves what it set out to do.
While we're talking about story, can I ask you a slight tangent related question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Why is he called Master Chief?
That's his rank.
Is that a literal rank?
Yeah. So he's a Master Chief Petty Officer, I believe. That's a naval rank.
That's a what?
Yeah, it's a rank in the.
Why is he ranked in the Navy?
Technically he's part of the Navy.
But you're never on water. You are in literally every vehicle except for water-based ones.
Well, remember, Callum, the Marines, the U.S. Marines have, for example, they exist, and they're not purely they're not purely a ground-based, an ocean-based force. They do ground operations all the time.
But he's not ranked in the Marines, he's ranked in the Navy.
Yeah, because he's in the UNSC. He's in the Space Navy, basically.
But space is different from ocean.
Yeah, he's a.
Why does it feel like I'm arguing the wrong side here? I'm right. It's weird that he's technically in the Navy.
He's.
You can sail the 7 seas in the Navy. You can put your mind at ease.
Well, he's in the Space Navy. He's a E rank. He's a E9 rank in the UNSC Navy.
I hate the phrase Space Navy so much.
Well, it's not. They're not called the Space Navy. They're just called the Navy.
But
Master Chief is a.
I know they're space ships, but you wouldn't call them space boats.
No, they're just called ships. They're just called ships. Because there's a technically Master Chief is. I guess he would fall part of like the Office of Naval Intelligence or.
And while we're on the subject, his secondary rank is Petty Officer.
Yeah,
which is wild.
He's technically non-commissioned.
Maybe don't give him the rank that has the word petty in it after he saved the Earth thrice.
Well, technically the Spartans are. Well, in the current canon, the Spartans are operating as a separate branch of the UNSC military. So technically,
then give them their own rank.
Yeah, but it's a decent rank. It's like a Master Gunnery Sergeant in the Marine Corps or a Master Sergeant in the Air Force. I'm sure his
parents would be very proud if they didn't think he died when he was a kid because of clones.
Okay, so
this is a fun story.
Why is it so upsetting to you that he has a rank like that?
I don't know, because you hear Master Chief and it's so deeply associated with the Halo games. I thought it was just like a nickname or like a separate rank that they gave him because he's kind of extracurricular. I thought for sure he was at least a part of the Marines.
Well, he is.
But when I see Master Chief, I don't think Navy. I don't think naval officer.
Okay, Callum, I think the reason for this is simply just because you're not super familiar with anything military.
No, obviously not. But like, when was the last time you watched an action movie and the main character used to be in the Navy?
I watched the Battlestar Galactica one, and that's basically about the Navy.
Ridiculous. It's about space. Again, Navy equal ocean.
No, a Navy is technically... Well, a Navy can be a space Navy. I don't see any reason why it can't be. What would you call the space...
Because we can't equate space to the ocean. Space deserves its own things, okay? Stop trying to ruin space by making it the ocean as well. Just make up new ranks.
Well, I mean,
It's all words.
I don't know why you have such a problem with it. I mean, for me, it makes perfect sense. The Navy operates
boring.
The Navy operates like ships and fleets and things like that. And what are spaceships? They're going to be organized into ships and fleets and things like that.
But like when you say that, it lessens space.
What?
It turns space from this like Wild West new frontier into it's a 3D ocean. The ships can go up and down as well as forward and back.
Well, it is.
And it's like it's so boring now.
Well, you have to understand that like Halo is a more grounded science fiction universe, right?
But there's a way to do grounded and keep it interesting. It's like that's one of the reasons I never really got into Halo, is because the version of grounded that they present you with is to make it very like lack any sort of whimsy. Because you can have grounded stories in space, you know? There's a comic that I love called Saga, which is pretty grounded, despite like how fantastical the elements are, but it's still fun and whimsical and interesting because they don't take space and push it through a grave filter of militaristic conquest.
Yeah.
And that's all there is in Halo.
Well, yeah, I think that's kind of the point. So maybe this is why Halo appeals to me, because it takes its naval stuff very seriously. You know, there are lots of little details paid to, for example, even like ship classifications and things like that. If you know anything about naval history, you'll be able to look at the Halo ships and go, that's a heavy cruiser, or oh, that's a an escort frigate or something like that. And it's internally consistent. And I guess the thing is, depending on what you're into, you can find different things in different sci-fi. I'm really into military science fiction, so I think the fact that Halo nails military science fiction does that for me. But I will agree that it doesn't really, capture a lot of like whimsy very well. But then again, Callum, I'm a big Warhammer player, so obviously I think I would be into Halo.
Okay, look, before we get like a lot of comments about this, genuinely, whatever you're into, I can't begrudge you for being interested in something. If Halo makes you happy, it makes you happy. Whatever. This is all pure opinions. We're not fighting. Don't worry. We're not going to get divorced. I just want to say, like, this Halo, for me, I think, and I'm glad you brought up Warhammer, has the same problem as Warhammer, which has the same problem as, like, orcs in fantasy, being a species that is entirely dedicated to war. Because you can't be entirely dedicated to war, because someone has to build the houses and make the clothes and cook the food. There has to be more.
Yeah.
There has to be more to your world than just anger and sadness and war and vengeance and honor and whatever. There has to be some level of ridiculousness, because the real life has ridiculousness.
I don't necessarily think that's a fair reading of Halo, because there is a big attention to detail placed on like the average lives of everyday people. The fact that the human space is reduced to basically a few planets by the end of the war is a tragedy. Billions of people have died. People still have to find a way to move forward and continue to live their lives. And it's not like the Halo games are bereft of humor. They have a serious tone, but I don't think they're like always like there are always characters in Halo that are designed to add some levity. Like, for example, Sergeant Johnson. He's designed to be a funnier character.
He's the black guy from Predator. That's the joke.
Again, Halo was made way back when, but I think the idea, maybe the criticism I think is fair in Warhammer, because in Warhammer, there is only war, and that is like the point of the whole grimdark thing. And I agree that sometimes they take it too far, but I think Halo does a better job of giving people more to the universe, because you haven't read the books, right, or the comics, or
I think that's one of the problem, is that like I'm coming into this from having purely played one Halo game.
So I've played all of them. I've even played Halo 0, which is a game that most people don't know of. So
I get like it may be unfair of me to throw out a blanket statement over the entire series. Although I will say, Halo 3 was this series' chance to hook me, and it didn't. It was like fine. I enjoyed the multiplayer. It was fine to play. It's a competent shooter. There's just like nothing interesting happening.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because when Halo came out, it had basically changed the FPS paradigm, you know?
Yeah, it changed it to being more boring. You can only carry 2 guns now, and chest-high walls are like the thing you have to do, and you trundle along in your giant spacesuit. Instead of being like a cool action hero, you're now just like a boring dude
Callum,
who moves like a shopping cart.
You can say that, but you know, the wheel of culture always turns, and eventually people will get tired of the other style of FPS gameplay, and they will shift back. That's just how it is. There's no...
Yeah, that's why Doom got re-released in 2016, and it was awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So eventually, when more people play those games, eventually people will get tired, and eventually, you know, we'll see more of the other Halo type stuff, just because the market is constantly in flux. I feel like we've talked about Halo for a very long time.
It's a dream come true.
I like Halo Wars. If you like Halo, I recommend you play it. It's not the deepest strategy game in the world. A very solid game for me. Callum, what's your next your second game?
I've been stalling because I just don't have a lot to say about this one, because I coincidentally have a huge stream series about it where I play the whole thing. It's Death's Door.
The bird game.
Yeah, bird game is back. And if you've watched any of my streams, you will know that I have a contentious relationship with bird game.
Is it because it's the Dark Souls of bird games?
No, it's because it's so good at presenting itself. The music and the visuals are wonderful. The gameplay isn't bad. And the story is like alright. It feels a little bit... I don't know. It feels like they think the stakes... And it feels like the writers think there's a lot more tension than there is.
Okay.
But there's a lot of big mistakes they make story-wise. And I'll get into it in a moment. Because you can go and watch me play the whole game. The biggest problem I have with Death's Door, and the reason why it's second instead of first, because I do like that game, it's just that it wastes so much of your time.
What do you mean by waste your time?
Almost all of the boss fights feel artificially padded.
So like it like the bosses are like damage sponges. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like the zenith of this point is the Frog King boss fight, which is like the second biggest boss fight of the game. Well, not the second. It's like there are 3 big main enemies that you're supposed to fight before you get into like the end game, and he's the second one of those. It is really easy to figure out the mechanic of his fight, right? You hit the mace you go through a first stage, and then you have to go to a second stage, and in the second stage you hit the mace on his back and it repairs all of the tiles that he breaks. That fight goes on for like 30 minutes longer than it has to. Because I understand that you have to teach me how to do this fight, right? You don't need to make me go through the initial stage of your boss fight again once I've proven that I can beat it. Once I have proven that I understand your boss fight, I should not be punished with having to do your boss fight for another 30 minutes, because it ends up creating this cheap situation where I lose because I've been doing this for 30 minutes, so I suddenly like sneeze or something and I lose the rhythm and then fall into a hole one too many times, and then I have to start this again. And it just becomes frustrating. It turns a difficult, challenging boss fight into a frustrating time waste.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. So basically, it's really just a balance issue.
Yeah, it's a pacing issue.
Pacing.
And then the final boss of the game, right?
Yeah.
Is this Lord of Doors. You have to fight him. We interact with him once, and then there's a level where we learn about his family. And his creation and everything. And it's an interesting level, and it's an interesting story, but I would have loved to interact with this character more, because just before him, there's a boss fight with the character we've been interacting with for the entire game, who was basically the impetus for our story.
I see.
And that boss fight is amazing. It's visually striking and interesting and has so much weight to it. And then we do this other boss fight, which is annoying. Basically, I came out of it just like frustrated at it again. Because it's another kind of damage spongy boss fight. And I complained about it on stream. It left a bad taste in my mouth. And then it leaves this cutscene so that you can go and get the true ending. Which, boy howdy, I don't even understand what they were trying to do with the true ending, because it's just a bunch of cutscenes that don't make sense. I'm sure you can interpret it in 1,000 different ways, but like, if I have to watch it 5 times to understand, maybe you didn't do a good job of explaining yourself.
Okay, so I have to ask then, why is this your second game?
Because this game has, again, beautiful art and beautiful sound music. I'm not good. I've had like 3 hours of sleep, but this is so well presented. And if you know me, I'm a very big like visual person. Presentation is such a big important part of a game for me. And this game has great moments. A lot of the boss fights are great. I love meeting every character. The character designs are wonderful. If you go for the true ending, you do get, like, the final fight in the game. The true, actual final fight in the game is against this boss that, again, we've been interacting with for the whole game. That should have just been the end boss. Because I do want to complain more about getting the true ending, because there are, like, 3 missions in there that are totally pointless time wasting. And that was the complaint. But that final boss fight with the final boss of the game is wonderful. It's fun and interesting and visually amazing, and it has so much weight and impact. And it just feels like, why didn't you just do this? I know that you have to make your game kind of long to like stand up in the gaming world. I know that you're a professional developer and people are going to complain if your game's too short. But this was 17 hours. If you removed like some of the time spent, you would have cut it down to like, what, 15 hours? 14 maybe? It wouldn't have made that big of a difference in terms of playtime, and it would have made a huge difference in terms of impact.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think it is kind of a rubbish expectation nowadays that like games just have to be long.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, one of my favorite games of all time is Portal. Portal takes like an hour and a half to beat, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, none of the games if a game takes way too long, I actually start to lose interest in it. I've had plenty of experiences where I'm playing this game and I think it's good, but the problem is it's dragging too long and it just kills my enthusiasm for it, you know?
Absolutely. I've had so many RPGs where I've genuinely had reviews of games that I had to do. And I got way better at this later in my career, but I would see like in early 2020, during like peak quarantine, I had to review Death Stranding.
Oh lord.
Which hit a little close to home. And you know my position on Kojima, I had to sit through so many 30-minute cutscenes after like intervals of 15 minutes of gameplay. And I legit went on the internet, looked up how long Death Stranding was, looked how much I had played, saw that I was only halfway through it after like 5 days. And I was just like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
You've
lost me.
Leaked any enthusiasm I had for this plot out of me. I don't care. I just want this to be over now.
Yeah, I get that.
And you know what? Playing this game also made me realize that like streaming these games might differ my opinion, because one, I think I would probably be less critical if I played this in my off time than since I streamed it. But two, I also wouldn't have gone for the true ending if I was playing this in my off time, because I'm not a completionist.
Yeah.
I don't care about getting 100%.
Yeah, me neither. Okay, that makes sense.
But yeah, that's Death's Door. It's brilliantly presented, wonderfully sounding, a little bit flabby, but ultimately I'm happy that I played it.
Okay. Yeah, I think ultimately, as long as we're happy that we played these games, I think that's really all that can be said, you know? I would hate to have a scenario where somehow the best game of the year is a game that I don't enjoy playing.
Yeah, that's why I avoided putting Pokemon on my list, because I enjoyed it.
Oh, we're gonna get...
There's just so much taint about that game. We can't get into it now. It's so much. But Emilio, what was your favorite game of 2022?
So, you know how I like hardcore, realistic military simulations?
Oh, fun.
So...
What is it, Armor Core?
You know, FromSoft are making another Armored Core. They're making Armored Core 6.
I did see a video about
Everyone is like, the Dark Souls of mech... No, it's not going to be they made other Armored Core games. It's literally going to be another one of those. It's not going to be like a mech Dark Souls games.
I have heard that they might be incorporating some Dark Souls-y elements into it, though.
We'll see. So, I am... one of my favorite science fiction franchises of all time. And we're talking, like... really, really up there is the Homeworld franchise. It's a franchise that I've long argued has never really been utilized correctly, or it's never really gotten its due. You know, in the same way that I kind of feel about Dune, because a lot of the things that I have positively to say about Dune, I think also apply to Homeworld. It's just, Homeworld was always this amazingly intricate, detailed story about like a people's struggle against all odds to reclaim their identity and their planet and stuff like that. And it was wrapped up in a really difficult science fiction space strategy game with, you know, one of the first space games to have like 3D space. You know, it feels weird to say that, but it's true. It was one of the first games to popularize and use three-dimensional space in an RTS environment.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is, right? It's
like, just if you're listening to this, just consider for a second every sci-fi game you've played where you have to go into space and it's 3D.
Well, not...
It's like all...
Well, not because, I mean, there were games like Freelancer and stuff like that. We're talking specifically about strategy games, because most strategy games are... Space is
okay,
a 2D...
If you're listening to this and you've played Stellaris, you wouldn't be able to do that without Homeworld.
Yeah. So, many people, including myself, were deeply skeptical when it was announced that Gearbox Publishing and Blackbird Interactive would be creating a prequel to the Homeworld games, and they were going to set it on Karak itself. Right? Now,
Oh my god. You must be joking. Karak itself? Wow. Can you explain?
So, the game is Homeworld Deserts of Karak, and if the original Dune 2 RTS game, which is also one of my favorite RTS games, was to be remade, I feel like it would really have the vibe of a game like Homeworld Deserts of Karak. Now, this game takes its ambiance and its atmosphere, I think, very seriously. The units have, like, realistic radio chatter. If you zoom in on a unit, they will be talking to, like, the sec-op command of the main carrier unit, or they'll be communicating to something, you know, they'll be talking about technical issues that the tank that they're driving is having, or when they need to, you know, apply for maintenance or something. There's so much detail.
Oh my god.
You know, there's so much, like, detail here in terms of, like, ambient noise, the radio clicks, and the people use the lingo, you know, military lingo and stuff like that when they're describing stuff, you know? And it creates such a genuinely... It's like a sand dune, like, covering you, in a sense. Like, it's the little things that slowly add up, and then the next thing you know, you're submerged in this epic story of how the people of Karak left Karak. You know, I don't want to spoil it.
I totally understand your point about, like, details sneaking up on you and forming together to weave this tapestry of a great story, but you are such a bottle in a ship person. Genuinely, because you get so excited about, like, and you can see them filling in forms and they're like cutting grass, and this one dude like wipes his brow and takes his helmet off and then puts it back on. It's crazy. It's I don't even know how to describe it. It is fascinating to watch you get so excited about this stuff.
I care about, you know, I care about these little details, because for me, I love playing tabletop games, right? I love playing tabletop war games more than I like doing many other things, you know? If you had to put a gun to my head and say you have to give up playing video games or you have to give up playing tabletop games, I think I would genuinely give up playing video games. Just because I find tabletop games to be so interesting. And Homeworld gives me a lot of the vibes of a tabletop game that I would like to play, you know, in the very best possible way. Because I feel like it captures many of the core themes of the Homeworld series about, like, a great journey in an inhospitable environment. You know, the soundtrack is amazing. It's a mix of synth music, sort of Middle Eastern music, and just like ambient desert noise. The graphics great. I really enjoy the presentation. Like there's something special about seeing a massive aircraft carrier that is actually like a tank just rumble across the desert. You know, it just evokes something in me that is very, very hard to explain to someone who's not also like that kind of person.
It sounds very cool. You know what's weird is from your description of it, it's kind of reminding me of Panzer Dragoon.
What is Panzer Dragoon?
It's a very old, like, SNES game. No, it would be like Nintendo 64. It was full 3D, where you ride a dragon and try and shoot things into rail shooter.
Okay.
But it happens on a desert planet, and it has this like ancient culture vibe, and it's very similar to what I get the same vibe.
Yeah, the whole plot about this is that you are the people. You are the Kith. You are the Kithid of the desert who are trying to find something called the Dyraki object because your planet is succumbing to desertification. Basically, Karak is becoming unlivable. In like 200 years or something like that, the entire planet will become desert and it will be impossible to sustain life. Your only hope is that some mysterious object called the Dyraki object might have the key to saving your planet. So you and your allies, the Kith Soban. I'm not Kith Saban. I think are they Kith Saban? Anyway, you and some allies go to race against your enemy, the Galcian Kithid, and defeat them in a series of pitched battles with carrier fleets in the desert. And it's just the coolest idea I've had in a very long time. I find
I legit wrote a book like that.
It's naval warfare, but in the desert, right? That's such an interesting idea. Where
that's rad. I can't.
Because everyone treats the massive land carriers. It's like an aircraft carrier, but it has tank treads. They treat these things as ships, right? They use naval terminology to describe them. Things are like cruisers and carriers and battleships and things like that. It's because of technically they have a sand navy.
This is your Eastward. This is a game that was made specifically for you.
Yeah, I guess the thing is this game has something that I think is very unfair is I think a lot of people treat this game negatively because it's not another homeworld game. It's not in space. But for me, this is such an interesting shift on like the RTS genre that my only problem with the game is that I feel like it needed more development time because then it would be perfect, right? This game did have a bit of a rush development. Fun fact, if I'm not mistaken, this game was actually made from the skeleton of another game. Blackbird were already making a game, and then they were, I think Gearbox were like, all right, well now we have to make the homeworld game, and then they had to pivot their design. And I think they did an amazing job, but there are times when I feel like the story does need a little bit more work. They needed like one or two additional like mission objectives or one or two additional levels or just like one or two. It's like what frustrates me about this game is I feel like it was one or two steps away from being an amazing game, just like an amazing game. But even as it is, I still adore it. There's a part of this game that lives rent free in my head, and that is just I think that's why it's like that's why it's my number one game. I think the gap between this game and the other games is huge, like really, really massive, in terms of just how much I like them.
I get you.
Yeah. So that's me, Callum.
It does sound really fun.
I don't know if we could even stream this game. It does make my PC chug a little bit, so I don't know if we could actually stream it successfully. Yeah.
If you want to gift us Homeworld, feel free, and then I'll stream it because my PC can probably run it.
Callum, noted strategy game enthusiast and RTS commander. Yeah, maybe that would be actually kind of fun.
I play strategy games. I played Crusader Kings. I wrote an article on Crusader Kings 3 once about how to make it more fun.
It again, very, very funny. I actually don't like playing those types of strategy games.
Anyway.
I don't actually like playing those types of strategy games. I much prefer these types. But anyway, Callum, what is your number one game?
Well, Emilio, you're gonna hate it because it's all about emotions.
Oh no! Emotions! I want my hard military sci-fi where people don't have emotions! No!
I love Greek mythology.
Yes.
I just want to say that right now. An interesting character from Greek mythology is Charon.
The ferryman.
The ferryman across River Styx, because it's such a wild, like, tiny detail.
Yeah.
Why did they make it like that? Who is this person? You know, was he someone else before Hades got, you know, the underworld?
Why does he do this job? You know, does it affect him?
Why is he paid?
Yeah.
What does he spend the money on? Well, in Spiritfarer, which is my top game of 2022, he's retiring.
Oh no!
And
He's finally cashing out his pension.
Yeah, yep. And he gives the job of Spiritfarer, which is basically what he is, like ferryman to the afterlife. He gives it to a young girl whose name is Stella. And technically her cat. But anyway, he gives her this, like, orb of light, which basically gives her Spiritfarer abilities, and I'm gonna level with you, I haven't finished this game. But that should tell you... I don't even know how far I am. I don't think I'm even halfway through it. And that should tell you how good it's been so far.
Okay, just a brief tangent. I've finished all of the games on my list, and how many of the games have you finished on your list? Just the one.
One. You're one of them. Right. But I'm the fun-loving rogue of this party. You're the rules-abiding paladin, I guess.
Oh, ain't that the truth?
Anyway, yeah. So, but again, I think the fact that I haven't finished it should tell.
That's how good it is, because it's still your top game, even though you haven't finished it.
And I'm fully aware that, like, an ending can ruin a game.
Yeah, because
but so far
you had mentioned, of course, that, like, the ending of, like, Death's Door is a little bit, you know, it's not as good as it could be.
Yeah, in this very list I made this point. But I do just want to say, like, I can't imagine this being ruined as an experience. Maybe it is, but I can't imagine it because it is so, Emilio, it is so zen. The point of this game, basically, is that you get people onto your ship. You do, like, a small mission for them, and then you invite them on board. Everyone except for you, basically, is either an animal person or wearing a hooded robe. And once you invite them on board, they take on their animal form, which means that they are, like, a materialized spirit now.
And then you get to see their true...
They've kind of... Yeah. It's sort of representative of who they are.
Okay.
And each one has different needs. Like, they all want different types of food. They all want, like, their own personal house, and your boat has to get, like, bigger and bigger and starts to get weighed down by the weight of the houses. And all of them, you know, have, like, their own little quests and their own little stories, and they're all beautifully realized. And at the end of it all, once you have fulfilled every quest for this character, once you have fed them enough and given them what they want and followed their story to its end, you have to take them to what's called the Everdoor, which is this circular arc in a red ocean where they pass on.
Ah. Okay. Okay. So the core gameplay loop is what exactly? You're basically gathering ingredients to build a ship to make people happy.
It's almost like
to move the ship.
You know those games where you have to maintain a home base or something?
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You have to run around making sure your garden has been watered, picking all the ingredients up from your various, like, orchids or orchards, or like your go and make some wooden planks in your sawmill, or make some ingots in your refinery or whatever, and you use those to craft the meals and houses that are necessary for you to further the quests of these creatures.
Okay, so everyone gives you, like, a little quest, and then you're like, I'm gonna do the quest, and then you get stuff, right?
Yeah, and or you do it to upgrade your boat, which is also necessary sometimes for certain quests.
So it's not... I was just thinking, is it purely cosmetic, or are there, like, actual... Does it make the boat go faster, or...
Yeah, no, you get upgrades that make the boat go faster, you get upgrades that make the boat able to go through ice, which unlocks more ocean, with more like islands you can visit, and like there's a mini game where you visit dragons that have these mineral deposits growing on them that's obviously irritating them, so it's framed as like you're helping them by getting rid of it, and you get to collect a mineral at the same time. You fish in certain parts that give you extra fish, and there are like little side missions you can do, and you unlock movement abilities every time you get more crew members, because they pay you in obols, which is basically like the drachma you have to pay Charon when you cross the river Styx.
Okay.
And it's just like, it all comes together to make this zen experience of getting into a routine.
I was gonna ask, like, are the vibes of this game like cozy, or are they like kind of a little bit, you know, also maybe melancholic?
It is cozy melancholic.
Cozy melancholic.
It lulls you into a sense of like, you know, your roommates, you're hanging out, you have to maintain your garden, and Uncle Atrial wants like some bread today, so you have to make bread, and then out of nowhere one of the characters says, "I think I'm ready," and you go, "What?"
Oh yeah.
And then you take them, and you have this little private rowboat ride away from your main ship where it's just you and this character, and they talk to you for a bit. And Emilio, I've gone through this like 3 times now with 3 different characters. Every single time, I feel something. I don't always like tear up or anything, but I do genuinely feel something.
Okay.
And that is how powerful the writing in this game is.
All right. Yeah, that makes. Okay, yeah. So it seems like this is the kind of game that will hook you in with you know, with some sentimental, you know, feelings, and then it'll like really deliver on that idea of like, because like, what would you say the themes of this game are? Is it coming to terms with mortality, right? With loss.
I don't even want to speculate on that, because I think it's a game that you do need to sort of experience for yourself, but I would say that it does cover a lot of themes.
Okay.
A surprising amount of themes, but it's just interesting. It's one of the most difficult to sell games I've ever thought of, because I can't like say, oh, it's really fun.
Oh yeah.
Or exciting.
If you
like it's not like boring. But it's
if you cornered like the CEO of Activision in an elevator and tried to pitch him this game, you know, you wouldn't be walking out with like $1 billion of like seed money to make it, you know. So
yeah, this is a game that could only survive in indie waters.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I would recommend that anyone who can goes and play. It's on like Switch and on PC.
When you started describing it, I felt like this is the kind of game that would like really do well on Switch.
It's on a bunch of things. I think it's on all the consoles.
I feel like you could just like sit down on a couch, play this, feel a little bit, and then, you know.
Oh yeah, I sit on my bed and I play this, and it's just great. If it's like rainy outside and I have my cat next to me, it's just a good time.
Yeah, well, again, you know...
And again, great visuals, great music. I do have a couple criticisms. I don't need to watch every, like, spirit animation every time when your orb becomes the, like, oven mitts and you take something out of the oven.
Yeah.
I feel like that can just happen. It doesn't... And the tree cutting one, like, the little mini games are kind of fun, but I don't know, sometimes
they get a bit
like,
repetitive.
I just want wood.
No, no, that makes sense. I actually listened to the Deserts of Karak OST. I actually have it. That's how good it is. So, you know, for games to have... I feel like this game probably really has to have very good music to nail the atmosphere.
Oh, yeah. It has this one song that I thought would get repetitive because you play it to make your plants grow faster.
And you're probably always playing it.
You play it a lot, but genuinely, it never felt like old. It's a really good song. I
think that's the benefit of a gameplay experience like that. You know, you have a game that just doesn't feel like it's going to wear out its welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, in a way that we've passed over, we're ready to move on. But just before we do, we have some unfinished business. Emilio, is there a particular game that you're looking forward to in 2023?
Yes. So, Callum and I, we normally we'd have honorable mentions. I don't really have any honorable mentions for my best list, but I thought it would be fun to maybe like look ahead a little bit and talk about games that we're actually kind of maybe a little bit excited for. So
this is almost a prediction. Like, this game could end up on our list, or this is the game we expect to end up on our list.
Yeah. So the idea is that if the game, we both have one game, but if this game comes out in 2023, which, you know, with modern release cycles being what they are, it is possible that the game doesn't come out in 2023. But if this game does come out in 2023, I think there's a very high probability that it'll be on my best of list. And Callum, my game is Xenonauts. I was about to say XCOM. It's Xenonauts 2. So, big fan of the original XCOM franchise. Also, huge fan of the original Xenonauts. It's basically an XCOM game, but a greater focus on like the Cold War era, which I feel like has, you know, fallen away a little bit with sort of the modern, you know, Firaxis-inspired XCOM games. Xenonauts also, I think, has some interesting ideas about naval air combat. There's like a little air combat minigame that you get to play, which is also pretty fun. It's still cooking, from what I can tell. It's supposed to come out in 2023. But if it does come out in 2023 and I get a chance to play it, I'm willing to bet that unless it's terrible, that will probably be on my top game list. Callum, what about you?
That's a bold statement. It'll probably be good if it's not bad. I do want to say, though, it is interesting. I know they're not technically aliens, but it's interesting that Xenonauts 2 and also Stranger Things have like alien-esque stories happening during the Cold War.
Well, you know, the Cold War was a time of like massive conspiracies, government like overreach. You know,
is Stranger Things 2 technically happening during the Cold War? It's not like in the 80s.
No, the Cold War was basically almost over by the 80s.
Yeah, but still, like, it was cold enough and war enough.
Well, yeah, it's apparently this game is not technically a sequel in the sense that it's a continuation of the story. If I'm not mistaken, it's a new story in the same world.
That's pretty cool.
So yeah, they've added some additional things. You know, there's going to be a human faction that's going to be fighting against you. It's 2009, right, in the Cold War. That's how wacky this is, right? The Cold War never ended.
Wow.
So you know, I think that I'm super interested in these kinds of alternative history, you know, type scenarios, and I think it'll be really fun to play. Also, I'm looking forward to getting my ass beaten by like.
Wait. Okay, I'll tell you about my game in a moment. I just need to say this. It is so wild that your game is set in 2009 and it's a continuation of the story. And Chaotic, which is a show that I love and have been talking about recently, started in 2009, and they've been discussing for the last like 3 years or so to bring it back with a continuation of the story.
Well, you know, serendipity and all that. I think we'll have a talk about that. We'll have a talk about TV shows another time. Actually, maybe we should do. Viewers at home, if you guys would like us to hear, if you guys would like us to talk about TV shows maybe that we like, we can do that. I'm down to talk about TV shows. I'm sure. Callum, are you?
Hell yeah. Always. I'm keen to talk about anything, including and not limited to Star Wars. Yes, which is my projected game. If you watch the streams, you've heard me say this before. Star Wars Survive. Star Wars. No,
it's Jedi Fallen.
Jedi Survivor.
The first one is Jedi Fallen Order. The second one is Jedi Survivor, I think.
Yeah, which I guess I understand the naming convention, because the first one was about the fall of the Jedi Order and like someone who survived it and now has to live in the aftermath of that fall, and this one is like Cal has accepted his role as a survivor and everything. But when I first saw the name, I was kind of disappointed. Like it seems a little bit plain.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's slated to come out in March. I'm super excited for it. I hope he wears something more interesting than a poncho. And there's like better cosmetic options. He seems to have a beard now. That's interesting.
He's slowly but surely becoming an Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
an Obi-Wan. He's transitioned. all Jedi basically have like three modes. They're either like an old man like Qui-Gon, or they're super young like young Anakin, or they're like
Luke.
Yeah, and Luke, or they're like middle-aged like Obi-Wan.
Yes, the two genders, middle-aged old man and young boy. But yeah, I'm excited to see it. It looks like you get a gun this time.
A gun! I missed having that Jedi power of shooting people.
Gun. But no, I mean, look, I enjoyed Jedi Fallen Order. I thought it was creative. I thought it was interesting. Yeah. We went to planets. We only went to one planet that shows up in like movie canon, and that was Kashyyyk. And we got to see an interesting side of it.
Yeah. I really... sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed Fallen Order. I'm not... Yeah, I also really enjoyed it. I think I also have some of the... It was really nice actually just seeing like different planets, you know, because Star Wars is meant to be big, but we keep going back to goddamn Tatooine for some reason.
Yeah, Tatooine or other desert planets and like other forest planets and shit. And it's like, let me explore some things. The Dathomir or something, the dark planet, is so interesting just purely because it's different.
Oh yeah, it's like a planet corrupted by like the dark side. There are these strange, weird animal life. You know, I also thought it was super interesting that you have like this evolving sense of like the danger. It's kind of weird to me that Cal was never like intercepted by a not by a Star Destroyer or something, but you know, it is kind of interesting just going back to planets and seeing how things like the Jedi temples, not the Jedi temples, the Maker temples or whatever they like the Zepho. Yeah, there we go, the Zepho temples. Those were I thought just super interesting, you know, because we rarely ever get to see like pre-human ancient civilizations species, in Star Wars, yeah. And not just like, oh, the ancient Jedi or whatever, but like these are pre all of that. They're like some kind of alien species that was highly in tune with the Force. I just think that's a cool idea.
And like, it played well. It felt like I was controlling a Jedi. It was great.
Yeah. How were you good at the boss fights or?
Yeah.
I think it. Have you played a game called Jedi Outcast?
No.
So Jedi Outcast was basically way back when in the 90s. Jedi Outcast was essentially this game. It was Star Wars Jedi Knight incredibly stupid name, right? It's like the full name is Star Wars Jedi Knight : Jedi Outcast. But it was...
Oh, it's like how the new like Super Saiyan form is Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Hero or something.
Yeah, it's so dumb. But it was a really interesting idea because it was about a guy by the name of Kyle Katarn who cut himself off from the Force and was working as a mercenary, and then gradually, slowly but surely, has to become a Jedi again. And it was a first-person game with lots of shooting and lightsaber combat. And it was set also in like the... Well, it was kind of set in the Empire era, but also a little bit in the New Republic era as well. You get to see Luke Skywalker's new Jedi Order and fight a dinosaur Jedi, which is pretty fun.
That's pretty cool. I do want to say it's wild to me that like there have been two characters named Cal in Star Wars, and I'd never heard of them.
Well, his name is Kyle Katarn.
His name is Kyle?
Yes.
God damn it. I can't tell my friend Kyle about that. He'll love it.
I thought it was a fun game, but it is kind of interesting how Jedi Survivor really reminds me of Jedi Outcast.
Jedi Fallen Order.
No, Jedi
Survivor is the new one that's coming out.
Yeah.
You see how confusing this is?
Guys, we need to come up with better Star Wars names.
But anyway, I'm excited to see it. I enjoyed the first one. I hope they do something interesting. I'm excited to see how they reconcile upgrading Cal now that he's connected to the Force again. Because the whole upgrade system in the original game was that he was reestablishing his connection with the Force, so I want to see what they do here. But I'm excited to play a Star Wars game, and that's new. I haven't been that in a while.
I'd be curious to see how they integrate like the blaster into the mechanics. because in Jedi Outcast, once you got the lightsaber, most weapons were kind of redundant, except for a specific case. But I hope they and I also hope that the storytelling evolves. That we get. I felt like one of my criticisms about Jedi Fallen Order is that we don't spend enough time with the supporting cast. It's really just Cal and basically two other people that really get some attention. I felt like the Night Sister, what's her name, Mirren. I felt like maybe the game needed more time with her, because by the time she joins her crew, I think the game's almost over. So hopefully she gets more of a spotlight.
I went out of my way to find a lot of the collectibles and stuff because I wanted cooler outfits. And I ended up getting a lot of the background story stuff, and it does kind of deepen everyone's lore to a degree, but I get you. I feel like they could have done a better job at making the supporting cast more prominent, because Grease as well, you learn about his gambling problem, and that's interesting and stuff, but most of the conversations are about the Jedi, and that's always been my biggest problem in Star Wars, is I don't need to know more about the Jedi.
Yeah, also the gambling thing shows up in a very brief interlude. You kind of just get I guess spoiler alerts for Jedi Fallen Order, you get kidnapped by a crime lord, and then you battle in an arena, and then you it never shows up again.
Well, it does actually. Interestingly, if you revisit old planets,
bounty hunter. Yeah, but that's not, you never really get a sense. I feel but then again, maybe it would complicate the game. I feel like Jedi Fallen Order is actually quite nice and linear, which is
it's a pretty well told, tight story, but. Maybe we'll get an update on that situation in the new game.
Yeah, I think so. It would be fun to also customize the ship a little bit more. I really like the Mantis. I think it's a really interesting ship. It looks kind of like a yacht, but I feel like it would be nice to just do more than just the paint job,
Yeah, I would love more customization options across the board.
Oh, yeah, just a whole outfit.
Let me do more, because Cal's outfits suck. They're bad. Let me give him a jacket or something. Let me do something with it, please. I can't have him be wearing a poncho. And they're all these grim, weird colors, to the point that it's expected that when I see a poncho that's bright, I'm like, what is this mess? Anyway, those are our expected games. Thank you so much for watching this video.
Yeah, and also, we've been getting a bunch of new subscribers lately, so just welcome to you guys. We hope you enjoy. Byte Marx 2023, we're going to be going bigger and better and making more content. So we hope you enjoy.
Yes. And on the topic of content, if you have any, if there's anything you want to hear us talk about specifically, feel free to leave a comment. That would be great for optics, I guess. But if you want to talk to us a bit more directly, go to our Discord, which is free to join, and the link is in our description, as well as on our channel. And if you want to support the content, go to the Patreon, and you'll have your name read out at certain tiers, like our three favorite patrons at the moment. Dorian, Liam Anderson, and Abway Chung. If you want to join the illustrious rank of having your name read out by us at the end of these videos, go and join the $5 tier. And if you don't care about that, but you want to continue supporting the content anyway, go and join the $1 tier. And if you don't have any money at all, but you want to support us however you can, share our videos. We need to get to 1,000 subscribers and a certain amount of watch hours before we can monetize this channel, and that'll help us out a lot with just getting around. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Have a brilliant rest of your week, and remember, Halo is bad.
Bye, everyone. Callum and I have to go duel to the death now.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Bye.